Hey, it's Dave. I just want to do a quick little synopsis. I just watched Ronan Chris Murphy do like a 2 hour interview about recording techniques, and it brought a whole bunch of stuff to my mind about stuff that he's taught me and other things I've learned just from working live. So I want to do a little bit instead of live. I sit in with a lot of different bands, sometimes 5, 6 bands in a month or more, and they all have different sound systems, and most of them are running their own sound, and I see all sorts of things, and I think it'd be good if people out there mixing their own sound, because most people can't afford to pay a sound guy, and most guys didn't go to school for it. A few tips that would be just standard tips that everyone should know. And so I'm just going to go off the top of my head on a few things. Not advanced studio mixing, but a lot of stuff does translate. And I just wrote some notes and stuff. One, high pass filter. Okay, on pretty much every board, there's a little button at the top, right, at the top of the channel. It looks like a little hockey stick usually, or it'll say something like 80 hertz. What that does is it cuts off all the frequencies below 80 hertz and a little bit of slope. And what that does is get rid of mic rumble, wind rumble, low end feedback, and also just mud from the room, the rumble from the room, and you'd be that button should always be on every single microphone, especially vocal microphones. I've been on gigs where we're on stage and I'm hearing and I knew as soon as like on the break I go to the board, I'm like, you didn't have the high pass filters on. And then and especially outdoors with wind, it helps with the wind sound dramatically. But the only channel really that you shouldn't have that pressed down on is your kick drum, your bass guitar, maybe your keyboard if he's doing a lot of low end, because but low 80 hertz or whatever it's set to is not necessary whatsoever in a vocal mic, a snare drum mic, a guitar mic. So just high pass filter, and you're gonna clean up your mix, and it's gonna avoid a lot of weird problems. Everybody should know this, and everybody should do this. That's a common thing that people are like, what does that button do? I mean, like everybody. Nobody seems to. Okay. Another. This is really basic. Safety things. Whether it's a powered speaker, do not turn those on first. Turn those on last. And when you do turn those on, make sure all your outputs are down. Whether it's going to monitors and you have your aux, on aux master, whatever. The last thing you should ever do is just turn on your mixing board with your powered speakers on, because you're asking for squealing, feedback, blown speakers, blown eardrums. I've seen people blow speakers. They just, let's just turn this on. Are you insane? Like, if you're turning on a new monitor, make sure that aux is down all the way, turn on the monitor and bring it up. And if you start feeling feedback, then you put it back. Same thing for microphones. Do not turn, people have a channel on and they're like plugging a microphone. You're going to hear a pop, which is not good for your speakers. You might get your feedback because you don't know if this microphone is this loud or this loud. And there's a huge difference. So that, do not turn on that channel. We turn on it, have it muted first of all, or have it down all the way. And then you gradually turn it up, test. Okay, now I know where how hot this mic is. If the mic is really hot, you turn your preamp down and then turn your fader up. Because when you're hitting the mic with your loudest note and you tell your singer to sing, the oldest trick in the book, singer will sing, and when they're sound checking, they'll sing real soft because they want their mic hotter during the gig. No, sing your loudest note so I know that it's not going to distort. And then if the sound guy's good, he'll still have a level of the microphone where the singers are up front and really nice. But basically you want to get the level on the mic, set your preamp on the mic to a level where it's not hitting red on the loudest note, and then you could adjust your fader accordingly and your monitor. But never just plug in a mic and also phantom power. Do not turn on phantom power with that mic channel on, or you're asking for a big pop, boom, and probably screaming feedback. Okay, the volume, your preamp should be all the way down. If it's a new mic, And so whether it's speakers or anything, make sure you're never just powering something on and putting sound to it, not knowing what the level is going to be. Level should be down, bring it up. Whether it's your mains, okay? This is safety things. This way you don't blow speakers, you don't blow eardrums, you don't piss off 200 people in the audience where they're now screams that makes it sound like you guys don't know what you're doing and annoys the club owner and and the audience. And before you even start a note. And now here's some just some basic things as far as sound. I think one of the most important things is your kick drum sound. And a couple of basic things, that punch in the chest that you get with the subwoofers, that's usually 60 hertz. So usually you boost 60 hertz a little bit. Like I said, you don't have the high pass filter on because you want that low end on your kick drum. That's usually the lowest thing in your whole sound frequency spectrum. And then maybe if you want a little articulation, believe it or not, and the upper, the highs, you might put a little boost, maybe not, depending. That gives you a little on your beater. Mic position, make sure there's a hole cut in your kick drum. Make sure there's some kind of pillow or jacket or whatever foam inside the kick drum. I know drummers like to have, it feels good to play a drum kit that's like boom, 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 but it sounds like when you hit the kick drum, it should be like boom, not boom. Same thing with your toms, same thing with your snare. You don't want a snare that goes ping, ping, because I can't fix that at the mixing board. Okay, it should be a nice tight boom, boom, tack, boom. It just sounds phenomenal right there. And all I gotta do is put the mic in. And the mic, if in general, you're gonna move the mic around because it make the biggest difference in your sound before you even touch an EQ. But have that mic in general. I like to point it at the beater, it gives you a little more punch. Where you want punch, you don't want boom. Even though it feels good, you think you're John Bonham going boom, boom, boom. Sounds like crap, as opposed to like a pro band with, you want that kick drum, the boom, kick you in the chest. Boost the kick 60 hertz. Have the kick drum padded really nice, so that's nice and punchy and tight. And, it's all about being punchy on all your drums. Not pingy, not boomy. And then also, sometimes if snare sounds your kick drum sounds a little boxy, that'll get rid of your boxiness. And then just that alone gives you a nice boom. And that gives, for the whole set, you have that boom, boom. It's the dance floor going. It gives, every rock song gives that AC/DC, boom, AC/DC sound on that kick drum. Same thing with the snare. If you mic in the snare, you may, in a small club, you may not even mic the snare. The kick drum mic will pick some of that up. But if you are, find a good mic position. I'm not going to get into all the details of mic positioning and everything. Move it around until it sounds good. If it's, but the kick drum for me is like the most important thing. Secondary is the snare. If you got that down and then you have a bass guitar that's not, again, same thing. You want it tight and punchy, nice and full, but not too fat and wide. I know it feels good to play it, but in a mix, you got to realize that kick drum's got to have its own space. The bass has its own space, and there's not a lot of room. Under 250 hertz, it's a small space. And you got to fit your kick drum and your bass and your left hand, and some people with the guitars try to put too much low end on their guitar as well, which is a whole nother thing. So yeah, you want to have that, the bass nice and tight, fat, full, right above. So you get your kick drum here, you got your bass under there. If you got that going, you're 90% of the way there because you've got that whole bass foundation sounds tight, punchy. And then all you got to do with, make sure the vocals are nice up front. And I won't get into too much details in vocals. Make sure you have your high pass filter on. Make sure first, if there's any weird frequencies, real mid frequencies or whatever, or harsh frequencies, cut. Think about cutting first before you try boosting. I prefer mixers that have a sweepable band so you could pick a frequency. So I could hear, that microphone's a little, sounds like that. No, well, maybe I got to pick back 500 hertz. Like if you're hearing a vocal and it sounds like you're singing into a solo cup, that's like around 500 cup, and you need to kind of back that off a little. Also, sometimes if you want to push it through in your mids, 3K, 4.5K, depending on the singer. You definitely don't want it to be harsh. You want it to be warm and smooth, but forward a lot. Every singer is a little different. You got to use your ears. And then guitar. Ugh. I'm a guitar player, and we're the worst as far as like. It feels really good to have a lot of distortion. It feels really good to have a lot of low end. It feels really like, I want to push the treble all the way up so I can cut through the mix. No. Cut off believe this, most records you hear, AC/DC, Van Halen, the mixer, and that's mixing that phenomenal record that you grew up loving. They probably high pass filtered and low pass filtered it. They probably cut off everything below like 100 hertz, maybe even higher. They probably cut off everything above like 7K, maybe to get that guitar to cut through the AC/DC crunch, Van Halen. Van Halen's guitars are not bright. They cut through the mix because it's got a nice mid-range, maybe 3K, 1K, 2K, and then some body, but basically if you cut off the highs and the lows where it's a nice, but not where it's like, nasal or anything like that, but just the real highs, the real lows, you could live with it. If you cut off everything below 200, this is a little extreme, but if you did everything below like 150 and everything above like 5K, you could actually still get a really good guitar sound. So don't worry about that fizzle and sizzle at the top. I hate that shit. It hurts people's ears. It's annoying. It doesn't help you cut through the mix. It just makes you annoy people. So you want to have those nice mids. And that way you could actually push the guitar up a little more. And especially with modelers. I don't like the sound of modelers, but I've gotten, on certain gigs, I've gotten them to work. And usually high pass filtering low, but a lot of times I've heard them where they just sound fizzly and sizzly, and it just sounds like a buzzsaw or a can of bees. So, but for me, a good tube amp with a microphone in front of it. I like, Sennheiser 609s, 906s, or a 57, the standard fare. And then again, some high pass filter, some low pass filter, and you should be pretty good. Another thing guitar players do is they have too much distortion. It feels good under your fingers. It sounds like crap in a mix, because if you look at on the screen, if you record it, clean guitar, you see all these peaks and valleys. It punches out. It's got these transients, this attack. It punches through the mix. It sounds great, nice and full. And it feels fuller when you have a lot of distortion. But on the screen, it's like one big wall. And it's really hard to mix because it can't poke out. It's just like this wall of so AC/DC guitars, Van Halen guitars, the ones that everybody loves those sounds, they're not that distorted. The the amp might be cranked up to get that tube, those power tubes, crunching, but it's not like a wall of overly saturated. And then the vocals will sit on top, and then keyboards, there's not too much to EQ with keyboards. You run those direct. If they're not doing left hand, maybe you do put a high pass filter on it. And then it's up to the players to be good. That's probably the most important thing. But once you get that sound, but some of the basic things that I just mentioned, that you're 80% of the way there. Day one. If you learn that and then work on your ear to be able to hear, oh wait, that vocal sounds a little harsh. I'm going to pull back, whatever, some of the high mids or something. Or it's not cutting through. It's a little muddy. I'm going to pull back 250 a little bit, pull back the low a little bit, and then push it up a little bit. Don't do things too extreme usually, especially live. In the studio, you can kind of get away with some extreme things. But I think, and also picking the right microphone for your voice, and which is very much specific to your voice. You could have a $10,000 microphone that sounds phenomenal on this singer. That same mic may sound like crap on another singer. And an SM57 may be, Michael Jackson has used an, SM7, and Bono used a 58 in the studio on $1 million records. So it depends what works for your voice in the context of that kind of music. A beautiful condenser mic on a screamy voice is going to just sound even screamier. But someone has a lot of beautiful overtones with a Donny Hathaway or Michael McDonald, beautiful voice. A nice condenser mic can really capture those overtones beautifully. You just got to be careful because those mics tend to bleed a little bit. So you got to watch your stage volume. But I think just that alone, that will get you, these are important things that everyone should know. And I think it'll get you pretty far as far as getting sound. These are the most common, mistakes or misunderstandings that I see people doing when they're doing the live sound. So I hope that helps.